Monday, Monday, Monday. Yes, it's Monday, and here we are, 420 live. Oh, wait, I like the way the shirt matched the... that was so not intentional. Wow, but I like it. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday, 420 live. Jeff Kravitz. Thank you for tuning in to another week. We are on week 30. 30 weeks of coming to you live, episode 145, I believe today is. Wow, I'm full of hot air. And so, speaking of hot air, I'm happy to report that the president is cured of COVID after 3 days. He has cured himself. He is on his way back, or he is back at the White House. I just saw him land live on Periscope. He went out and popped down right there and jumped up, waved everybody without a mask on, and then went inside to go infect the rest of the staff that he hasn't infected yet. So good work, Mr. President. You really know how to do it. He's taken out two of the justices that are on the Judicial Committee. So they're going to have a lot of trouble approving a Supreme Court justice. I believe you need a quorum and the VP can't do it. There's a lot of political things to learn out there, folks. But fortunately, we have people like Claude Taylor in our world that help keep us informed of what's going on. Claude's our guest today. We're going to be getting to him in just a second. I'm really excited to have him in. He's done amazing work with the Mad Dog Pack and has now got the Rate Your Skype Room going on, the Room Raider. And it sounds like Raider, like I'm raiding because of my really New Jersey accent, but it's Rater, Room Raider, where they rate the rooms of people like me that have a bunch of stuff in the background and really piss poor lighting and framing. And, you know, because we went to this whole world where we're webcasting and everybody's sitting in front of their cameras trying to create part of their house that looks like a zone that they could turn into a TV studio. Because usually TV studios are pretty plain, screens in the back, some pretty background or whatever. But now everybody's in their house. So it's been very unusual to watch people do the broadcast from their home and the different things that have happened that we've all witnessed and seen gone viral on the Twitter. But I just find it so unbelievable that you could get the COVID and then continue to be so unbelievably thick-headed when it comes to trying to get the message across that that you're sick. I mean, I understand not wanting to show weakness, but there's also a thing about common sense. I mean, where you're ill, you have a disease that we're still figuring out about, that there's all these little things we know, but this guy had not one and not two and not three, but I believe 4 experimental drugs that they're telling us about in a matter of 48 hours. Every 12 hours, did that work? Okay, give him something else. Did that work? I'll give him something else. It's like when I go to the dermatologist and he's like, did that clear it up? And I'm like, no. He's like, all right, I'll give you another cream. I mean, it's like process of elimination on how much you're going to get to before you get to the crux. And the crux is basically that the guy's sick and he needs to take care of himself. And there needs to be a common sense. There needs to be I don't even want to say decency because we're so far away from there. But it's just interesting to watch this happen because, you know, here these guys have turned away, and I've seen all the memes all weekend. They've been great. Oh yeah, now the conservatives believe in science and the liberals believe in God. And I thought that was really good. I think the Herman Cain, looking at his timeline when he got it, when the experimental drugs went in, how he felt better, and then when he died 5 weeks later, he's a guy that's in the same age group as our president. So that's a good way to judge how a disease works with someone. And Herman Cain was in a little bit better shape than Mr. Trump. So there's so much going on where it's such an interesting moment in history right now that it's incredibly, it's hard to process it all because it's coming in and out so fast. So fortunately, there've been people that have experience out there in politics that have been breaking it down for us on the Twitter. For me, Twitter is where kind of the dialogue, you can debate the dialogue, and then you can throw up your links with your proof on it. You can get your point across. And Claude Taylor has mastered the Twitter feed. I followed him since he first began. I saw him doing the giant rat, and I was like, this is hilarious. And I was all about the rat because I grew up in Atlantic City, so I know what this guy does. He is like vermin, where he infests, ruins, and then, you know, goes away scot-free while the city suffers, while whoever suffers. And that's where we are now. We're in the suffering stage. So I want to welcome Claude Taylor to the show. I got a lot to talk to him about. Hi, Claude. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Great. What do you think?
We really are. Who wrote the book Sleepwalking Through History? It just feels, it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane. Every day it just gets more and more twisted. This last period with Trump going to the hospital and coming back and, being a super spreader. And I mean, that Rose Garden event turning out to infecting like the upper echelons of the federal government. It's just crazy. What we're living through is just nuts.
I saw a thing today that blamed the Bidens for not getting it.
Well, yeah, I'm sure somewhere it's probably Obama's fault, but
that's what Obama said. I'm waiting for them to blame me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. It's Obama's fault for not having created a vaccine.
Well,
they actually did claim that at some point.
But didn't Obama have a whole pandemic task force in place that was a budgeted item?
That was disbanded by Trump. Yes. In 2018.
Has he done anything?
They had an entire office, sort of an early warning infrastructure, protocols in place, and it was shut down. It was mothballed.
Has he done anything right in handling the pandemic?
Nothing comes to mind.
Well, China, you consider him closing the border with China doing something right? Because that is the one thing he says he did, and nobody else wanted him to do it.
It's just kind of meaningless. And in our case, most of our early infections came from Europe, not from China. And he shut down the China, but still some incredibly large figure of people came in after that supposed shutdown. There were ways around it, so it wasn't completely shut down. And it's not
right.
really where the infections were coming from at that point.
And it was like 400,000 people too, right? It wasn't just like 10 people.
Yeah. I mean that's a figure that I've heard, but I mean I'm not an expert in that, but I don't. It's hard to. Yeah, there's not much you can claim credit for. That's for sure. I mean when you look at what has gone catastrophically wrong. I mean, it's like a mass murderer saying, well, I know I killed 36 people, but I could have killed 58.
Right.
I mean, it's like, how much credit do you give that?
Yeah, it's incredibly tough. What do you think about the dividedness of his family that's coming out now, where Junior is supposedly saying Dad's crazy for taking that ride around the hospital, and he wants to talk to him, but nobody else wants to talk to him?
Well, I don't think very few in that family, aside from perhaps the young son, have any chance of redemption in my book. They're all pretty rotten to the core.
Well, you've been in the White House. You worked with President Clinton,
many moons ago. Yes.
And he was incredible. I thought Clinton was incredibly effective. And, I long for the days when a guy got in trouble for just getting his rocks off, as opposed to like screwing the whole country.
Yeah, it was a simpler time in many ways.
And he was the last one to really whip that deficit down. And he did a great job. How like what would be going on now? Like Mark Meadows steps to the microphone and pretty much is a little too honest the other day. Then he gets shouted down where he's got to go. And the doctor, same thing, came out at first, gave up too much information. And now they're just going up every day and lying to the American people. And it's
you'd think they'd be better at it, They just really suck at being liars.
But it doesn't seem to bite. It doesn't seem to affect them.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get overconfident about Biden, but yeah, I mean, the numbers are looking not too shabby right now. We haven't had a consistent polling spread this large, and I don't remember, the last time, probably Clinton in '96, where the lead seems quite comfortable and quite durable. we all
Yeah,
have
well,
to work our guts out.
especially when the October surprise is that the president comes down with the virus that he's been calling a farce. And
Yeah, but and I mean, and the numbers got worse after the first debate. So I thought that was very significant. I
well,
mean, Trump's running out of runway here. He's going to have to turn this thing around, or it's becoming a done deal.
well,
I don't
how
know.
do you?
I don't mean to get, everyone's going to be like, oh, don't get overconfident. Every race is local, and you have to run your heart out, and we have to win every single state we possibly can, and we're going to.
And also to swing the Senate and the Congress our way.
Absolutely. It's been amazing to watch Jamie Harrison in South Carolina. He's just got Lindsey Graham on the run, and that's just been so much fun. Mark Kelly in Arizona, he's for sure going to get that one. We've got Hickenlooper in Colorado. I mean, the Senate's looking pretty good. I mean, we've got Sarah Gideon in Maine, so another really strong candidate. So we've got some really strong candidates picking up some of these mostly open seats, or some open seats, and some. Not really open seats, but it depends on the seat. But we've got a good chance to take the Senate. If we all work our guts out, I guess.
Well, it's been unbelievable to watch the groundswell of support come in the voter registration ranks, and the amount of people that had voted already. It's record-breaking numbers that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the whole system is sort of changing. I mean, it's been kind of going, with everything that's happened with COVID. That's people are voting the smart way.
it's unbelievable. I'm shocked. I'm still shell shocked that he actually left the hospital. That he would just be like, time to go, and then go to the White House, where there's so many people there there's 90 staff, right, that work in the White House permanently.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. There's how you look at the staff, the East Wing, the West Wing, the residence itself, and the old executive office building, kind of the White House complex. There's actually up to 1,000 people, at least. And I don't think the numbers have changed that much, but that's what the numbers were back in my day. Not that many. 90 might be about right for who works in the West Wing. Then there's the resident staff. You have ushers and custodians, and you have chefs, and you have you have all sorts of support personnel, groundskeepers, and you have all kinds people managing the physical plant. You have all kinds of people making the complex work, and they're all put in danger. I was tweeting about this today. I'm not sure how. I'm pretty sure I would not be happy about working in that place. If I was in that position, based on my experience there.
You're hearing from the Secret Service agents, which is something you never do. You never hear like a leak, or someone here's a text I got from a Secret Service agent, and you're starting to see this, and seeing those guys in that car yesterday, all dressed up with their face shields and their mask on, and it's kind of he doesn't really care about putting anyone else in danger here.
Well, it's just so incredibly irresponsible, and the messaging is so tragic. People are going to die because of this messaging. The people out there, his 30% or his 35%, they look at that as that modeling, and they're like, yeah, we can take we can just flaunt whatever rules there are, and just you can go into the specifics about the hermetically sealed car, and just how dangerous that was and how irresponsible, but just as the idea that a COVID patient, someone shedding virus, that it's okay just to load them into a car with other humans and for any reason at all, and drive them around. It's obscene. It's absolutely obscene
and unnecessary. It didn't really prove anything. He didn't really need to do it. It's not like his numbers went up,
yeah. No, just disgusting.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom. So you got out of the Clinton White House, you sat through Obama, and then Trump gets in. How long did it take you before you designed the rat?
Not long, not long. The rat's been around almost as long as Trump has. We have a lot of fun with the rat. He stays in his box most of the time, but he's visited the Trump Hotel. He's visited the White House. Sometimes we put him on the boat. He's been in Florida. He's been here in D.C. He's been in California. So he gets around. He's been to Mar-a-Lago a couple times. That's his favorite place.
And that was was that your first thing that you started using as a way to demonstrate, was the rat, and then into the billboards?
Well, actually, we already had billboards when we did the rat. So they've kind of been simultaneously, but the billboards were actually first.
Oh, the movable ones, the one you were towing around town?
No, just regular billboards, highway billboards.
Gotcha.
we had one up on 95 at Mar-a-Lago for the first year of the Trump presidency. That was very, very visible. That was one of our first. That was kind of our first highly public billboard.
And you raise all the money through the site, through your merch, your incredible merch. How do you go about designing your merch? Because it's so great.
We have a lot of fun with it. It falls into different categories. We have sort of the herbal management products. So we have a lot of products. There's a really good grinder. There's a really good keeper. There's a really good one-hit wonder. There's a rolling tray. There's just some really useful stuff that's well made, and so we have that kind of stuff. We do mugs. We have some fun. We've had balloons.
The baby Trump balloons, right?
Yeah, baby. You're kind of the small version of the giant 30-footers. We
Right.
wanted a 3-footer so people could carry around at marches. So we made those. So we try to have.
You got in trouble for that baby Trump balloon, right? In France, or where was that? Was that France?
Well, it came from the UK.
Right.
It was originally a UK design.
Gotcha.
And then there's actually, my understanding is that there's somewhere between 6 or 8 or 10 that were made and are in this country, and they kind of get moved around to different events and stuff.
Brilliant. And you set your sights on, I remember really early, you were like, this guy has got to go. I mean, what was you had no tolerance. Was this something you learned earlier in your life that you knew about Trump, of the way he operated? Then it was going to be a shit show coming up?
It's always been the potential for authoritarian rule that has warned me off. I just have no tolerance for Nazis.
Yeah, but early on, it was hard to tell that was where we were going. Like, then it became incredibly obvious, and you were on it way before he got to that point.
Well, his backing, his association with Putin, it's just, just the fact that this guy went out of his way to work with an adversarial state to get elected president. I just never got over that. I could never, I just couldn't let that go. And I'm still not letting that go.
No, and it's still a big thing, and it's still something he's courting and trying to have on his side.
Yeah. And it's still, and here we are,
Yeah. I mean, it amazes me because he doesn't really lie. He's not really a good liar. He actually stands up and tells the truth. Like in the debate when he talked about spending $750 on taxes, he's like, "Hey, I'm working the system. This is what I can do. I'm a businessman. This is what businessmen do. We work the system and we don't pay taxes." And it's just like a totally acceptable answer. It blows my mind.
It might be for some people. It's not the answer that I'd want to campaign on. I think most people who pay over $750 a year are going to resent that pretty quickly.
Yeah, or figure out or hire his accountant.
Yeah,
one or the other. What do you think about the Supreme Court nominee coming up? Do you think that they're going to be able to push that through with everything that's going on?
Oh Lord, which senator? One of the senators who tested positive, was it Tillis?
Yeah.
So he would vote if he had to show up in a moon suit. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a real optimist on this one. Um, you know, three of them. I mean, three of them have tested positive, but they have the votes. I think they're probably going to figure out how to do it.
Well, the Judicial Committee has the votes to take it to the Senate, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and ultimately the Republicans in the Senate have the votes to pass to get her on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm not super confident about being able to stop it.
Well, we still have numbers rolling in from the super spreader event it was only last Saturday. So not everybody's going to present in the first 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So technically he's supposed to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, and now he wants to debate Biden on the 15th of October. Biden has no obligation to debate and to go in a room with this guy, does he?
Oh, he doesn't have an obligation, but I think he needs to. I would be, I'd put Trump in a big plexiglass box or something. They're going to, they can borrow Lindsey. Did you see from the debate with Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham? He had Jamie Harrison brought his own plexiglass screen. It was like a Japanese screen, but it was plexiglass, sort of. I thought that was great. That was I loved that. So maybe Biden could borrow Jamie Harrison's plexiglass.
Well, I'm sure they're going to have to do something like to keep them separated and their families separated. But it is amazing how nobody on the other side has come down with it. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock wood. Sooner or later somebody probably will. Nothing's 100%, but they're all practicing social distancing. They're all wearing the masks. I don't think it's foolproof, but as to the debate itself, there's a protocol. Like Trump has to test negative over a certain number of times, and I don't know if Trump's going to be able to make that schedule.
He was supposed to be tested this time, and he didn't do the test. And they're trying to say that he could have been at the test even positive at the debate.
Oh no, it seems pretty clear at this point. If you look at the timeline, not everything about the timeline really makes sense the way they've explained it, but it seems pretty clear he was not only positive but maybe symptomatic when he was at the debate. So, and well, they knew. And
what do you think if the CNN reporter doesn't break the story on Hope Hicks? Do you think he comes forward and says? Do you think all these people come forward and say? Do you think the White House tries to bury the entire thing?
They would have tried to bury the whole thing, and they wanted Hope Hicks. They thought they thought they could just get over Hope Hicks and nobody would notice, but it just steamrolled after that. And now like every other person is sick. Like some are getting seriously sick. They lost control of that early on.
So you're the president. You want to debate, but meanwhile, the people you infected are your campaign team, your press communications team, and not just the person who runs the department, but also her right-hand person. And you just keep knocking people out that have to be the ones that are supposed to be your public face in the face of other people. Do you replace them at this point? What do you do? Katie McElhinney supposed to be out for 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, it's a real fact. Losing the campaign manager was crucial. The press secretary. Let's see how long. Trump's not going to delegate. He's back there. If he's up to it, he's going to be squawking to make noise. He's filming videos right now, I guess, or in the last few minutes, to roll out. Maybe they'll campaign by video.
Well, thank God. At least they stopped him from going to. He can't really go take his people to another convention center or airport, can he? Can he go on the road?
You wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think he could. He should. You wouldn't think he should have been released from Walter Reed. The guy's spewing virus. He's contagious. It's like anybody in proximity to him is supposed to go into quarantine. including the Secret Service who rode in the SUV with him yesterday.
Right, even masked up or whatever. When you're that close to a COVID patient, you should go into quarantine for 2 weeks.
And yeah, and he's wearing a cloth mask. He's not even wearing the full N95, PPE, the full, regalia. He just had a regular cloth mask on.
All right, Claude, we're going to do some problem solving. I want to do a couple futuristic scenarios at you because that's what I've been talking about my friends now, because things been happening so fast and so furious and where we are a week ago, we had no idea 4 or 5 things that happened this week that happened almost every day where we were blowing our socks off, where we didn't see them coming, totally out of left field. So I'm trying to think. So let's run a couple scenarios. If the president, God forbid, passes away from the disease, what do you think the scenario is there? Do you think they put Pence in to run? Do you think they bring someone else in? Is this something you thought I've been thinking about in the back of your mind?
I think they put Pence in. I don't think it would be that dramatic. And
do you think, how effective do you think he would be to be able to campaign for president in 2 weeks?
Pence wasn't at one point in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't expected to win re-election as governor of Indiana. And Trump is sustained by this, this cult of personality that he's somehow created. Pence doesn't have any of that. It would be a complete blowout if anyone other than Trump stood in. It's just too late to try to build a coalition on that side.
Right. So you really can't build it. Is there a scenario where the election gets postponed? Let's say the president gets sick and goes into a coma for the next 3 weeks, and then it takes him into the election where he's not able to run, but he's still alive on life support or whatever.
There's no, from my understanding, there's no mechanism to legally, constitutionally do that. The election is stipulated for November constitutionally.
Right.
And there's no workaround. There's no but if written into
right.
it.
So you would have the election on November 3rd, no matter what the state of Trump is, whether he was up and talking or knocked out.
Yes.
So we would run as now. And if something happens to Biden, do you think they run Kamala as president? Yes. So Kamala or Pence, or Kamala versus Pence is even a possibility.
First of all, Biden appears to be in excellent health. Despite his best attempts, Donald Trump does not seem to have infected Joe Biden. I swear those motherfuckers, they all knew, they were all spreading. They went to that debate to get the other side sick. Is that
attempted murder?
I think it is. I think they should be prosecuted.
Because if you think about all the people in that room, they now have
how many people like if they knew, if Trump knew he was sick before he went to the fundraiser at Bedminster, and if people get sick in Bedminster, could they sue? If it can be proven that Trump knew he was COVID positive when he went there. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just asking. Is that is that a reasonable question, though?
It is a reasonable question, and I don't know the answer to it. I would think that he would be guilty of assault at the very minimum if he went into these situations knowing he was sick and knowing he was contagious. And he did this. If he did the election, there was also an event on Wednesday. Was that in Cleveland, or where was that other event that he did where Hope Hicks had to stay on the plane, or Kaylee was told not to go on Marine One or something like that? I read about that today.
I think it was Michigan.
Right. So he had an event in Michigan too. So he went to that and he was also contaminated. And then he went to the one in New Jersey, he was contaminated. So to me, it seems like he's just trying to wipe everybody out. right now, because why would you go in if these are your supporters and the people that love you and the people that are working for you? I would think you would want to take care of them and not get them sick, and especially people that you're expecting to pony up millions of dollars for your campaign at your very private golf club.
I mean, it gets into the whole death cult thing, though. Some of these people, they would consider it an honor to be infected by Donald Trump. They would consider it like some sort of, they're so whacked. They'd be like they were being like anointed by God or something.
I read a guy on Twitter said that it would be my honor to die for if I had to die of COVID for our president. It's my honor, and I'm like, what?
Really? It's a sickness. We're like, Jim Jones with bronzer.
Drink the Kool-Aid. But you don't even have to drink the Kool-Aid. Just come over here and talk to me.
Just come work at the White House.
Work at the White House.
Just be a staffer at the White House.
I gotta say, Karma, the karmic slapback, I've been waiting it for 3 years now. It seems like Karma has evaded this White House and just sitting on the sidelines and not really smacking him upside the head. And this week they finally got upside the head, and they still don't get it.
His dogma finally got run over by Karma.
All right, what's your worst case scenario? What do you think is could be brewing?
Well, I don't think he's going to be in any shape. I think he's really sick. I think these drugs, the steroids have masked how sick he is. I think there's a good chance he's going to relapse, or, in 5 days or 8 days or whatever it is, he's going to be rushed back to Walter Reed, and, we'll see what happens. Whether he, like you were saying about Herman Cain. So, that's a very real possibility. I don't think he's going to be in any shape to really have any sort of real campaign in the next 30 days. So
he thinks he is, though. He's ready. Do you think his will is stronger than that 74-year-old overweight, drug-addled body?
From what I'm not the medical expert, but from what I'm understanding about the steroid in particular, it kind of jacks you up, and you're on a high for a period of time, and then there's a big letdown when you come off of it. But we'll see. But even without this is just the latest thing. This, he was already the guy who we found out last week. We were pretty sure, but last week we found out for sure they got the goods on him, was paying $750 a year in taxes year after year. So he wasn't in good shape before he got sick. Just his handling of the COVID crisis itself has become the issue. Him getting sick keeps the focus on that issue.
He can't make it just disappear like he's tried so many times. And the one thing that I see encouraging is that all those people sitting on the side that were undecided. Well, if you're undecided after watching the president come down with COVID, you're
there's no undecideds. There's like 7 undecideds, and
I thought I was reading 3 to 11%.
Yeah, and most of those undecideds, it's not so much whether they're going to decide, it's whether they're actually going to vote or not. And it at some point it begins to look, there just isn't enough of a population for him to draw on to expand. He's been running a base election. He's been trying to make sure his 40% is fired up, and they are, but he doesn't have any plan to get from 40 to 50%.
Well, he's alienated every group he could. He goes after the blacks. He goes after the Asians, goes after the gays, goes after the Latinos, goes after the Jews, goes after the men, goes after the women. Who's left but the racists?
At some point, you have to expand the politics of addition. You have to grow your coalition. You have to, he's never approached anything close to 50%. So I don't think he's in really good shape, just in terms of what happens on November 3rd.
No, I agree. I've been watching the polls as you have, and I saw even before he got the COVID that his polls were horrible, and he was losing in some real big battleground states that usually go red, where he's going to turn them around: Arizona, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's some interesting things happening afoot. It's just so hard to stomach. I feel the karmic switch. Like when he got sick, I'm like, wait, oh. And when his taxes came out, when all this stuff started happening last week, I'm like, oh, I feel the tide turning. And then when he got sick, I'm like, oh, here it is. I mean, this is the final big wave. This is the thing. And I think it is going to be the thing too. But he's just going to fight it how he can, because that's all he knows how to do.
They're not done playing tricks. I mean, the third week of October, like maybe a week, 10 days before the election, they're going to roll out the cure, the vaccine. They're gonna call it. It's great. It's a miracle drug, and it won't
used by President Trump himself.
I mean, so what? There's 3 or 4 or 5 candidates out. They're gonna prop up, maybe 1 or 2 of them. They're gonna say we've got it. It's gonna be, and then they'll announce this incredible program to roll it out, and by April everyone will get their shot, and yada yada. And so they're going to make a big deal about having won, having.
Do you think that's the October surprise? I mean, besides
that was the idea. That was the idea to.
But people like Moderna and other people have said that they're not going to be ready. They're not going to be ready.
Yeah, I there's going to be some vaccine announcement.
I believe you. I mean, he needs it.
I mean, I'm fully capable of being wrong, but I always believe that there's going to be some October surprise, and it's going to have to do with declaring victory on the virus.
Would you take it?
I will take the first vaccine that Anthony Fauci takes.
Okay, I agree. At least he has a little bit of brain power. Nobody seems to him.
I mean, there is a process, and when there actually is a real vaccine that has been approved, that then yes, I will take it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if he gets behind what comes out in October.
Yeah,
because that's another thought. So besides the politics, you're creating a new little window of fame for yourself, a smaller window with the Room Raider. Talk about how that started and how you came up with that.
Well, my girlfriend Jessie and I, who lives in Vancouver, and I created it together, the Room Raider account. We were just on the phone a lot because we ended up being quarantined apart, and so we're both watching way too much cable television, and we're watching CNN and MSNBC, and we're making comments about people's backgrounds as things really went into lockdown, and all the reporters and the talking heads started doing their live appearances from home, from their living room or their kitchen or their dining room. So we just said, let's create an account and let's call it Rate My Skype Room. And we just started rating people's rooms from 1 to 10, or from 0 to 10, actually. And that was in mid-April. And we're at about 325,000 now.
Followers,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. And how often do you do it? Do people submit? Or do you just see something you like and you pop it up there?
Well, we have people who help us find rooms. People do submit rooms. I do watch a lot of cable television. I do work from home, so I do have MSNBC on or CNN on. So I do take photos, screenshots myself, but we do get others submitted to us. We probably do 30 or 40 a day.
Wow. That's a lot.
Different ratings. Yeah.
And what are the criteria? Like, what are you looking at?
Well, we look at different things. We look at depth. We look for art. We look for color. We like plants. We like a little bit of fun, a little bit of whimsy.
And do you see that a lot or no? It
Yeah,
depends on the room.
rooms have gotten much better. There are things we don't like. We don't like what we call hostage videos, which is just shooting against a flat wall, just a blank wall. We call those hostage videos. That's your zeros and your ones. Um, we like rooms where you can see into the room and we can see some art, and books is one way to go. It doesn't have to be books. That's just one way to design a room.
So you're looking for a little person of the personality of the person coming out in.
Very much so. Personality is very important. You don't want it to look, just too contrived and too just like a set. You want something of the person, something from their travel. Like, can you tell me about your Kurt Cobain photos back there?
Yeah, so all the photos on the wall behind me, I took at various times in my career. I was a photographer with Getty Images, and I still am, but there's just not. I do event photography, working with MTV and doing a lot of music festivals and stuff. So Kurt was actually shot up in Seattle on the pier when they did Live and Loud. It was supposed to be Pearl Jam. It was the Seattle scene in an MTV special. So I've been working with MTV now for 3 decades doing photography. And I was at this event, and at a certain point during rehearsal, I noticed that if I stood in a certain place and got a certain lens and compressed the image, you're a photographer. So I was using a 300 to be able to make the wings come up so they're looking like they're more closer to his body, compressing the image. And that's where that photograph came from. It came from that event. And when I saw the image in my viewfinder, I actually got chills. And 4 months later, he was gone. So it was kind of an eerie moment.
Wow.
So
wow.
it was
what a special moment. It's the power of photography.
Yeah, talk about your photography. Tell me, because I'm not really familiar with what you shoot or what you've done with photography.
Well, I'm like yourself. It sounds like I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus. I will return to it. I'm a much different sort of type of. I was a travel photographer for some years. I had a gallery in the DuPont Circle neighborhood in Washington for about 18 years. I sold my own prints. I basically went to London and Paris and parts of the Middle East and Asia and South America, and tried to take better pictures than the average person did when they went there. So I try to have like a nice Eiffel Tower picture, or,
right?
That sort of thing. And Italian countryside, Greek Isles.
So you're doing travel photography, which is amazing. I love it. It's so engaging. And how was your business?
Well, I was there. I had this store, a gallery, a bricks and mortar store for 18 years.
Right.
And so, and I kind of saw through the whole rise of digital photography and Amazon and my rent stayed really high. And, after 18 years, it was just kind of like, it seemed like it was getting tougher, not easier. So I finally just said, what, I'm going to take a break, and I've got this Trump thing going on, and I need to focus on that. And I'll come back and I'll figure out photography again on another. I'll take another pass at photography. But
now it's a completely different industry. It's totally changed. We've been changed by the apps and like everything else, communication, the way news travels, the way information travels. I mean, Twitter, Instagram.
I'll be the first to admit it. In terms of my own photography, I live right now in social media. I live with these 2 Twitter accounts. My long-standing one at True Facts Stated, and then the new one that I do with my girlfriend Jessie, Rate My Skype Room. But I kind of become a creature of social media. But in terms of photography, I was very much old school. I shot on film. I was selling physical prints. I was selling a $35 or a $70 matted print that you could put on your wall. The cheap art for the post grad. I was in a lot of I was in a lot of 1-bedroom apartments in the DC area.
Right.
And so I will be the first to admit that I was selling buggy whips. I learned photography, and I started selling photography. I opened my store in the late 90s. people thought of photographs as a physical thing. People used to go to the office and they'd have, look at the roll of photos from my daughter's birthday.
Right.
And they were physical prints. And if you went on vacation, if you went to Paris or Rome, you came back and you had your photos developed, and you had, bad fuzzy photos of the Eiffel Tower, but they were real physical things. Now photography is digital. Now people show each other someone hands you their cell phone and, look at my photograph. Or they hand you or they email you, or they text you, something, and you read it on a laptop or on a tablet. So what a photograph is sort of evolved. And I sold, and I made my living selling, matted analog, framed versions of those.
Yeah, well, tough business, but information's changed, photography's changed. We used to have cameras and film. If you didn't have a camera and film, you weren't a photographer. Now all you need is an iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's just a completely different game. And I went digital very early in the game because I could see that it was a better way for me to get my information out quickly. But I could also see that when I watched it in the beginning, that was good too, because you were doing digital, so you had a cutting edge. And then once I saw myself getting scooped on Instagram and on Twitter before I even got home to edit the pictures, I knew that a new dawn was, a new day was dawning. So it's been, you have to figure out a new way. And my photography, unfortunately, is large event photography and concerts. The other picture, this one here, is from outside lands. It's a guy in a wheelchair being held up above the crowd. That's the photograph on my other side there, and that is a crowd of 60,000 people, which, I don't know the next time we're going to be in that.
Yeah, no, the before times and the after times. I was tweeting tonight. I saw a television ad for some new movie coming out, and it advertised it's only going to be in theaters, like it's coming out in theaters. And, I have no intention of going to a movie theater for the next probably several years. I hope someday in the fullness of time to be able to return to movie theaters or to large venue crowds of 60,000, but we're not there yet.
Oh, we're not going to be there for a couple years. I think at least 2, 3, 4.
At least a couple. So the sporting events, everything from children's birthday parties to huge events like you're describing, it is going to be several years.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's why I started the webcast, because I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, I need something to keep myself active and involved every day. And it's kept me active and involved. I miss my old life of running around with a camera, and I want that to come back. But I also am realistic when I think about how watching our country not be able to handle this in a unified manner where we can all get on the same page and decide what's best for our country, where Texas, Florida, and Tennessee decide that they've cured COVID and everybody can go back and do what they want. And the president can cure himself in 3 days with 4 experimental drugs and go back to work. I mean, and back on the campaign trail and want to be with other people. I mean, we're in this upside down, and we got to turn it. Do you feel the turn? Do you feel the change? Can you feel the wave coming?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll feel a lot better on Tuesday evening, election night, if we win Florida.
Yeah.
If we win Florida, it's all over. So,
well, your mouth to God's ear. What else can we look forward to coming out of Mad Dog Pack, and what should we keep our eyes on? What's the best way for people to get involved if they want to donate and help you with the billboards and stuff like that?
Well, we another thing we do is that we raise money to purchase face masks and PPE for Native American tribes. That's sort of our charitable arm. And so far, we've raised over $350,000. It's more than that now. I haven't looked recently, but last time I checked, it was over $350,000 in PPE that we've sent to Native American tribes. We just finished funding a project today we're providing reusable face masks and plastic face shields to the Northern Cheyenne. So we have 5,000 face masks and face shields going out to the Northern Cheyenne. And we do that through the sale of some gift items in what we call the Room Raider shop, which is part of Mad Dog. So that's been fun to get that done.
You were on this incredibly early too in getting PPE to people that need it, and I think you first started with hospitals, right?
Yeah,
Getting it to hospitals.
We first started with some of the hospitals that we read about in New York. There was Elmhurst Hospital in New York. Some of the hospitals in Long Island were really hit hard. So pretty early on in March, we were getting tens of thousands of surgical masks, plastic face shields, surgical gloves, getting stuff sent up mostly to New York right in the beginning. We sent some stuff to New Orleans and to Louisiana as it got hot. After a few months of the pandemic sort of shifted southwest. A lot of the Native American tribes, which tend to be poverty stricken and tend to be overlooked in a number of ways, were just really getting decimated by the virus. And we just saw an unmet need there. So we started focusing by May, or we started in March, and I say by May, we had sort of begun focus on providing PPE to the Native American tribes. For example, we were able to provide a reusable cloth face mask, 175,000 of them, one for each member of Navajo Nation.
Wow, incredible work. And I'm sure the Indians are incredibly grateful to get that. The Native Americans are incredibly grateful to get the PPE. And you're doing God's work out there, Claude. I've been a big fan. I appreciate you coming on today. Is there anything out there you want to tell folks?
Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you have a plan to vote. Make sure you call your cousins. Make sure you call everyone that you know. Make sure everyone you know is registered to vote. We have deadlines coming up every day. So it's this. You always hear about how this is the most important election of our lifetime. This really is the most important election of our lifetime.
Yeah, we're fighting for freedom and good and to right the world from evil. I really feel it. I really feel like it's a battle between good and evil right now more than anything else. And, I'm just tired of being lied to. I'm tired of being, told you're crazy. And, I grew up in Atlantic City, and it was really hard to take this guy for the years that we were even in Atlantic City and what he did to that town. So watching what he did to our country and watching where we are now, it just turns my stomach. But you were right from the get-go. I was right from the get-go. We saw this coming, which is why we speak up and why you've made such a noise. And keep on rattling those cages, Claude. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good day. Claude Taylor, what an honor to talk to Claude. And, that we need people like this right now to step up and to step in. And I'm not saying stand by, stand down, stand by. I'm saying step up, step into this, because this has been a totally unbelievable peace moment in history that we're all witnessing together. The beautiful thing is we're all going through history together, and we can focus on it. We can watch what's happening. And it's why there's so much engagement when it comes to voting and things of that nature. And as Claude said, headcount.org, there's a lot, there's a lot of different places closing the registration, different cities right now that are closing their registration. So you should get on it and go to Headcount and make sure, that you're registered, because 17 million people were purged between 2016 and 2020 from the voting rolls. That's a lot, 17 million. I was one of them. Headcount.org told me that. I went in and re-registered, and I'm waiting for my ballot in the mail. It's coming any day now. So I'm looking forward to that. And thank you, everybody out there. Today was a great show. It was, it's important. The future of entertainment is telling you to vote. Get out there. As Dr. Chaldone says, get out there. It's the last day today in Florida. So Florida, like he said, like Claude just told you, Florida is incredibly important. So don't delay. Get your vote in today or register today. Make sure you're registered. And you can vote too. One of the early voters, over 1 million people have voted already. Kind of crazy. It's nuts. I really feel it. I'm feeling the groundswell. Well, you know what? I have to wish the best to our president. I hope that he's doing the right thing here. You know, I always hope he's doing the right thing. And he hasn't proved me right yet. So but I'm waiting it out, and I'm hoping that, you know, he understands what he's doing and the gravity of the situation he's in, because healthy is one thing that we have to take completely seriously. Make sure you stay healthy and sane in these incredibly difficult, challenging times. And it's my pleasure to come here to bring you a little distraction every day to keep you from losing your marbles. And this week, Wednesday, we might have Vance Powell here. I'm waiting for him to get back to me. Thursday is the guys from Goose. Friday, Anders Osborne, Ivan Neville, and Annabelle Lukens, who just celebrated 22 years on Thursday, will be 22 years of her sobriety, are going to come up. We're going to have some sober talk. So I'm looking forward. I haven't had Anders on the show yet. We've had Ivan on the show before, and he's always a great guest. And Annabelle's also been on the show before. So we look forward to seeing those guys. Everybody have a great Monday evening. Peace. Love, happiness, big hug. Everybody out there, take care of yourselves. We will see you back here tomorrow, 4:20.